Very good morning. You're watching News 9 Live. I'm Karthik Malhotra. This is Morning Brief at 9, and on the show today we will be discussing the controversy that L&T Chairman Mr. Subrahmanyan is surrounded in. Our corporate bosses, slave drivers. That's the big story that we will be tracking today. Also on the show, AMFI has released the December data for mutual funds. What it tells you about the Indian investor. Feroz Aziz will be joining us on that story. And finally, we will also have the stocks which are in news today and whether they should be on your trading radar with Santosh Meena. You're watching Morning Brief at 9 at News 9 Live. This is Morning Brief at 9. First up, a quick look at the headlines. Debate on work-life imbalance heats up again. This time, L&T Chairman and Managing Director SN Subrahmanyan advocates 90-hour weeks and preferring to call employees in on Sundays too. We discuss, are corporate drivers and corporate leaders really slave drivers? And is nation building being weaponized by corporate India? AMFI has released the December mutual fund data. Mutual fund folios are at an all-time high of over 22 crore in December. SIP accounts meanwhile are at 10 crore and 32 lakh, another record high. But they are not buying large caps. What exactly is the Indian investor buying and what it tells us about the investor mindset? Tata Consultancy Services has reported its Q3 results. Muted revenue growth in dollar terms, but margins beat estimates. TCS has also announced a dividend of 10 rupees a share and special dividend of 66 rupees a share. In other corporate news, Adani Wilmar's offer for sale for 20% stake opens today at 275 rupees per share. Quick commerce player Swiggy will launch a separate app for its quick delivery service, Instamart. Are days of super apps getting numbered? Meanwhile, Restaurant Owners Association moves Competition Commission of India against quick food delivery apps selling private labels and being promoted after building consumer trust with restaurant offerings. Prime Minister Narendra Modi appears on Zerodha co-founder Nikhil Kamat's podcast. I am human, not God, Prime Minister is heard saying in the trailer. Near zero visibility at Delhi Airport as winter fog envelops the city. Indira Gandhi International Airport issues advisory on potential flight disruptions. Meanwhile, AQI in the city hits severe category again. And the economic cost of Los Angeles fires is estimated to top $50 billion in losses as Hollywood celebrity houses get gutted. A top story today, in a positive sign for investor sentiment, inflows into equity mutual funds surged by 14.5% in the month of December, according to data released by the Association of Mutual Funds in India. Equity mutual funds saw inflows of over 41,000 crore rupees last month, a major jump from 35,900 crore rupees in the month of November. Mid-cap funds recorded an inflow of 5,000 crore rupees, up 4% from the previous month. However, the large cap companies and funds faced a decline of 21%, with inflows dropping to 2,000 crore rupees. Small cap funds also witnessed a 13.5% increase, garnering over 4,600 crore rupees, while flexi cap funds saw a slight dip of 7%, ending December at over 4,700 crore rupees. But the major spike was seen in the inflow of sectoral and thematic funds, which saw a jump of 100% to 15,331 crore rupees. Joining me to make sense of all this data this morning is a very special guest. Feroz Aziz, Deputy CEO of Anand Rathi Wealth, joins us. Feroz, looking at this data month on month, especially amid the volatility that we've seen in the month of December, what does this data tell you about the Indian investor? Is there this undoubted faith in the Indian equity story?
Good morning, Karthik. Of course, like you rightly pointed out, there is an undoubted sentiment that India's growth story is very much intact from a long-term standpoint. And I personally think that the narrative that these are new investors, they don't know how markets fall, is incorrect because they have in 21 and 22, 23, in about 2-year periods, Nifty touched about 15,000 twice, thrice, and 18,000 3 to 4 times before it came back to square one in 2-year period. So I personally think the growth story sentiment is intact, point one. Point two, the retail is not stupid. They're not chasing only equity. They're still putting only 8% of their total savings last year into equity. I hear this narrative that retail sirf equity ke piche bhag raha hai. 42% of the total savings went into deposits last year, and only 8% went into equity mutual funds, not even equity mutual funds.
All right. And you are talking about the fact that retail investors are now obviously coming of age. We see some sort of a maturity given that markets were volatile, and the diversification. You're saying the retail investor is playing both the equity and the debt game.
Absolutely. They're playing the equity and the debt game. If you look at how India has distributed its current balance sheet, which is the total 840 lakh crores of savings till last year, what did they do with the new savings this year, but the year which went by? You'd be surprised, out of the 850, 880, 870 lakh crores, there's only 6.7% of the financial assets. That is almost like about 4% of the total assets of Indian households, individuals I mean, and HUFs in equity. And people think that we've come to a story of a very large increase in equity participation. The answer is no. Because you see, if I total the last year's total saving allocation, 42% is debt, some 15% is EPF, 20% is small savings and other debt instruments. So in financial assets itself, Indian households save 70, 75, 80% in debt alone. And why would that be called a full equity pull? I don't think we've still seen the full equity pull. Is why you see in a month like last month, where the markets were volatile, the equity SIP number came so high, 26,000 odd crores, which is almost like a 6% increase in a month's time.
Absolutely. I want to also understand the risk appetite of the retail investor, Feroz. We are seeing that there is a pull away from the large cap stocks, the household family names of corporate business houses, which are part of the Sensex or the Nifty, and the investor is going after small caps, the investor is going after thematic funds. What are these funds? What is this risk appetite of the Indian investor?
See, there are two separate things. Thematic and sectorial funds are largely an AMC narrative. Let me be very straightforward. Because conventional schemes, SEBI has permitted one per category. All those categories are filled in all asset management companies. So now the only open category is sector and theme. Uske alawa koi NFO aa nahi sakta. So sector and themes could be very, very vast canvas. You can create a sector. There are about 400 sectors mentioned on NSE's website. You can keep creating new funds on any of those sectors which you think are relevant. Not that AMCs are not being responsible. They're launching the right sectors at the right time. Is a study which we did. So that's a separate story. That's an AMC need to create enthusiasm to penetrate the retail market or the tier 3, tier 4 towns, which I think is a good strategy to begin with. Now, from a retail standpoint also, because otherwise people don't come in. Once they come in, then they become permanent investors in the mutual fund industry.
All right.
The second part of the question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The second part of the question, Karthik, sorry to take a longer answer, because both of them are very, very different. Now, the small cap story, I think small cap does not represent the risk of India only. Because there are 2 points I would like to make. In India, if there are 2,400 traded stock on NSE cash market, the top 500 actually encompass large cap, mid cap and small cap as per the definition of AMFI and SEBI for mutual funds. 500 स्टॉक में पूरी तीनों कैटेगरी खत्म हो जाती है. the 1,800, 1,900 stocks are not even in the radar of mutual funds. So small cap, as the name suggests, is not as small as what the English word will make us to believe. That's point one. Point two, India has only 3 lakh crores in small cap through mutual funds. 3 lakh crores out of 840 lakh crores is 0.3% of the total household savings. If a caller calls me on a show like this, or Karthik will recommend put 10% in small cap. India has put only 0.3% in small cap.
Right. So, what you're trying to tell me is that small cap is a much smaller segment of the total mutual fund AUM, and it is basically on this low base that we are seeing a higher percentage growth. Am I right in my understanding?
Yes, absolutely, Karthik. And the total small cap, which is the 250 stocks of NSE's 500, which are categorized as small cap, you have mutual funds having invested only 3 lakh crores out of the 69 lakh crore, which the mutual fund industry grew from 51 lakh to 69 lakh last year, 2024.
And this 100% rise in thematic funds and investments going into thematic funds, which are the themes that investors are chasing?
See, investors are chasing some unconventional themes, last one or two themes which were born. Some themes are born in a specific month, some themes are penetrated in a specific month. The one which was born in November and December theme is the capital market theme. So Nifty Capital Market Index was launched and a few NFOs have come there. That's a thematic fund. I should also give you my disclaimer that NSE Capital Market Index also has the stock which I work for, Anand Rathi Wealth Limited. Having said which, that's one theme which has got some momentum, because if the financialization of story of India is real, the barometer on which you can probably, or the proxy on which you can play the Indian capital markets is a high beta sector like the Nifty Capital Market Index.
All right, and we are just weeks away from the budget. We will have you with us, Feroz, on budget day and prior to that as well. But we are close, just a few weeks away from the budget, and we are at the start of the calendar year. The IPO story is another story which investors, retail investors really like to participate in. How do you rate 2025 as the season for IPOs?
I think one hypothesis, I think the IPO, to answer your pointed question first before I can make a couple of points, I think the IPO season will continue. I think there are a lot of businesses who have filed for their DRHPs with SEBI. If you see, we are almost at the all-time high at a point in time, approval spending. So I think IPO's dearth wouldn't be there in the year, calendar year 25. But I think when you come to the IPO market, one thing which perturbs me is most people are using IPOs not as a long-term investment. In the first 2-3 days of listing, the total volume on those stocks are greater than the actual free float.
All right. And what are your specific expectations from the budget? Do you think there is something in the budget that can come by way of further boosting the investor sentiment?
Yes, Karthik Saab, I think investors said, I personally, if you ask me as an investor, I would say, please make no changes. It takes me years to understand the whole entire sections. And then if you have had so many massive changes on 23rd July 24, all the taxation from an investment standpoint for all asset classes have been tampered with. Don't make another direct tax code change, which Madam said in the last budget. So my expectation as an investor from the budgets, and not just this, is to make sure that you are allowing people to acclimatize to the new temperature and learn it. Now coming to other investors' expectation, my client's expectation, the retail's expectation, is to make debt and equity taxed at the same rates. Most of the countries have only one rate for capital gains. I think this whole narrative that debt funds can never become long-term and they will remain short-term even after 100 years itself is an oxymoron. Short-term has to end. So debt funds never become long-term, even if you hold it for 20 years, which is not mathematically right, neither is it logically right.
All right. And we've been speaking for the last few years, Feroz, and there is this formula for asset allocation now in the context of rising gold prices, in the context of inflows into both equity and debt. Is the asset allocation of about 70, 20, 10 still holding true?
I think, yes, Karthik, 70 into equity, I think is mandatory. My love for debt is very low. If you want to replace debt with gold, I would definitely appreciate that, because debt has no potential of capital gain, unlike the narrative. Interest rates coming down will not result in bond prices going up, because when interest rates went up, repos and reverse repos went up, bond prices didn't go down. People have not lost money because the yield curve has been flat, and the 10-year GSEC has not moved up, so I don't see a large potential of it coming down when the reports get reversed. So to answer your pointed question, 70, 10 and 20 could also be a mantra. Only 10 towards debt and 20 towards gold and 70 towards equity could be better, unlike getting married to debt, which Indian households have. I think it's painful to see Indian households stuck at 7.5% lending to government and corporates.
All right, Feroz Aziz, words of wisdom early morning on a Friday. Thank you so much. And I will remember that it's 70, 10, 20 is what Feroz Aziz is saying. 70 in equity, 10 in debt, and perhaps 20 in gold. With that, we will head into a short break. On the other side, we'll discuss the controversy surrounding the L&T chairman on his 90-hour work week mantra. Stay tuned to Newsline Live.
I will take you to Paris.
Paris नहीं, Paris. तुम्हारा pronunciation भी ना, तुम्हारे इरादे की तरह.
मैडम इरादे कभी ऑफ नहीं होते हैं, टेक ऑफ करते हैं.
SBI Life Smart Platina Supreme के guaranteed return से करो पूरे अपने इरादे, अपनों से किए सभी वादे. SBI Life, अपने लिए, अपनों के लिए.
You dreamt of European engineering, of modern design, of craft that's comfortable. With the best-in-class maintenance cost, we made your dreams a reality. Behold, the Skoda Kailak.
Skoda.
What is to the nines? In literal terms, it's perfection. But to us, it's not just a phrase, it's an attitude. One that starts at your desk and sends a statement to the world. To the nines is about taking charge. It's a way of life where every seam, every fold, is crafted with excellence. It's timeless elegance and uncompromising quality made for the corner office. It's the ideas that inspire redefining order and elevating the tabletop. To the nines, for the leaders of today and the visionaries of tomorrow.
Why suddenly Aam Aadmi Party has come up with this issue of Jat reservation?
We had to see which were the issues which were left behind and which were neglected.
ये सिर्फ और सिर्फ फर्जीवाड़ा करने के लिए.
Do you think this is Kejriwal's toughest fight?
There are constitutional hurdles, there are legal hurdles.
Congress and Aam Aadmi Party could not get along together even in Punjab.
Why this theatrics and this drama and this letter writing every day?
Why do political parties get high on reservation just before the elections?
How long can you stare at your wife? And if it were up to me, I would have you work 90 hours a week and on Sundays too. Well, this is not something that I am advocating or anybody at News9 Live is, but these are statements which have come from the L&T chairman and managing director. That's right. L&T chairman SN Subrahmanyan has opened a Pandora's box on the debate on work-life balance, or rather work-life imbalance for corporate India's employees once more. Remember, Infosys co-founder Narayan Murthy had initially ignited the work-life balance debate last year when he had suggested that corporate employees in India should work at least 70 hours a week to boost India's global competitiveness. The L&T chairman's take is further from that, and he says that he is batting for a 90-hour work week. Subramanian's inspiration seems to be the Chinese model of work, where the average Chinese worker is putting in about 90 hours work week as compared to the United States, where Americans typically work an average of 50 hours a week. Now, L&T has in a statement responded, not directly addressing this issue, but it has responded saying that the company remains committed to fostering a culture where passion, purpose and performance drive it forward. RPG Group Chairman Harsh Goenka has come out with one of the strongest criticisms of the statement by the L&T chairman. In his tweet, he said, why not make the day off a mythical concept, and why not rename Sunday a sun duty? Meanwhile, Bollywood actress Deepika Padukone also took to social media to express that it's shocking to see people in such senior positions making such statements. Now, there are a few pertinent questions that we would raise here on News 9 Live with respect to the L&T chairman and managing director's statement when it comes to a 90-hour work week, when it comes to having the motivation at least to call in employees on Sundays, and also passing some statements like how long can you look at your wife and how long can your wife look at you? What are these questions that we would leave you with today? Let's take a look at these questions. Question number 1 that we want to ask right here on News 9 Live this morning is, are corporate leaders slave drivers? You hire employees, you pay them salaries, but do you have the moral authority to drive them as slaves? Question number 2, what big deal is there about working hours? Do they really matter as long as the job gets done? Are we living in a world where we want to count the number of hours and the number of coffees and the number of loo breaks you're taking? Or do we want to just focus on getting the job done? The next question we leave you with is India regressing in work-life balance as countries move towards hybrid work and companies move towards shorter work weeks of 4 days? Is India really looking at going from 5 to 7 days of working a week? The next question we want to bring to you today is, what gives company heads the moral authority to make comments such as how long will you look at your wife and how long will she look at you? Is that all people are supposedly doing on their weekends? Is that what we understand of work-life balance? And finally, is nation building being weaponized in India? These are sentiments expressed by both Narayana Murthy and now by the L&T chairman. Is nation building being used as a weapon to morally push employees to come in and work on weekends and work longer than what you pay them for? We leave you with these questions. Coming back on the other side of the break, we will discuss the stocks which are in news with Santosh Meena.
L&T is still making employees work on Saturdays even after being one of the largest conglomerates and the face of India's business world.
I regret I'm not able to make you work on Sundays, to be honest. If I can make you work on Sundays, I'll be more happier, because I work on Sundays also. What do you do sitting at home? How long can you stare at your wives? How long can the wife stare at your husband? Come on, get to the office and start working.
Remember, this is an undated video. We really don't know when this conversation took place, but these are the statements of the L&T chairman. Time for a break. We'll be back shortly.
A new wildfire broke out in scrubland in Los Angeles.
Firestorm is the big one
in magnitude.
Deadly stampede broke out among a crowd of over 4,000 pilgrims.
Who is the B team of the BJP?
दिल्ली का चुनाव आम आदमी पार्टी और बीजेपी के बीच में है.
The Aam Aadmi Party is getting all the support from the INDI bloc leaders.
India and Afghanistan seem to have moved past the shadow of the Kandahar hijacking.
And amid high-voltage political campaign in the national capital, the poster war is not stopping.
अब आम आदमी पार्टी मुक्त दिल्ली करेंगे.
भारतीय जनता पार्टी चुनाव जो है मुख्यमंत्री के बंगले पर लड़ना चाहती है.
What is to the nines? In literal terms, it's perfection. But to us, it's not just a phrase, it's an attitude. One that starts at your desk and sends a statement to the world. To the nines is about taking charge. It's a way of life where every seam, every fold, is crafted with excellence. It's timeless elegance and uncompromising quality made for the corner office. It's the ideas that inspire redefining order and elevating the tabletop. To the nines, for the leaders of today and the visionaries of tomorrow.
You work too hard. Work smart like me.
Why? Won a lottery, is it?
You can say so. I'm investing in a great scheme in the share market. High returns guaranteed.
Your high returns aren't Karan Arjun for them to definitely come to you.
Meaning?
Dad, there's risk involved in the share market. Nobody can promise guaranteed high returns. It's illegal to do so.
Really?
Yeah.
सोच कर, समझ कर, invest कर.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Brief at 9 on News 9 Live. A quick look at the mood check. Markets have opened just a few minutes back and it's been a gap up opening for the markets. Markets are up about 0.2 to 0.3% this morning. Nifty still well below the 23,600 mark at about 23,585 this morning. Let's look at the heat map. Let's see which are the sectors, which are the companies on the Nifty 50 index which are moving the market today. TCS, after announcing its result yesterday, is up about 4% in trade. It started even higher, but the entire IT pack seems to be having a good start this Friday morning. Can't be said about other companies in the energy space. Reliance Industries, ONGC, Coal India all down this morning. Reliance down about 0.2%. HDFC Bank is up about 0.4% or so this morning. The auto sector gives you a mixed bag. Maruti, Bajaj Auto both down. Mahindra and Mahindra up about 0.6% or so. Santosh Meena joins us this morning with a mood check on the market. Santosh, good morning. Nifty 50 still far from the 24,000 levels, even far away from the 23,700 or this morning 23,600. What are you making of the mood of the market?
Yes, good morning. So the mood of the market is not good because continuously we are sliding lower. Actually, Nifty has broken its important support level. Now it is trading at the important support zone of 23,460 to 23,269, which is a November month low. So there is some hope because market is extremely oversold. The FI's short exposure in the index future is around 84%. And in terms of context, it is around 2.8 lakh contract, which is highest after June 2024. So market is oversold and the structure is weak, but there is a hope for short covering rally, but there is a need for a trigger. And as of now, we are not seeing any kind of trigger for the market because FIs are selling aggressively in the market. So there is extreme pessimism and market is oversold. So there is a possibility of a short covering move, but market is lacking a trigger. So we need a trigger. Budget could be a trigger or any positive surprise from any banking space or consumption name can lead a short covering rally. But for time being, market structure is weak. Any rally is being sold into, and until and unless Nifty managed to cross 23,900, which is its 20-day moving average, the structure will remain weak.
All right, market waiting for triggers and structural weakness in the Nifty. Let's move to stocks and news today. Let's begin with Tata Consultancy Services, which reported a 4% rise in Q3 profit despite revenue slipping about 0.4%. Dollar revenue fell 1.7%, while the operating profit grew about 1.2%, expanding the margins by 40 basis points. The stock market is looking at this data well this morning. TCS stock is up about 4% in opening trade. Santosh, what do you make of trading on the TCS stock this morning?
Yes, if we talk about the TCS, so earnings were slightly below estimates, but the management commentary was strong. They were saying like 2025 will be better than 2024, and the valuations is low. It's TCS valuations are comfortable because it is trading below Infosys valuation. So risk reward was favorable. 4,000 acted as a strong support level. So I think it may continue its strength. On immediate basis, we may see some resistance near the 4260 level, which is its 100-day moving average. Once it will cross 4260 level, then we can expect this momentum is likely to continue towards 4500 kind of level. So yes, you can hold this counter, and this is one of the space which is still looking promising in such uncertain environment.
All right, and in good news for the TCS shareholders, a dividend has been announced, interim dividend of 10 rupees and a special dividend of 66 rupees per share. And this also comes at a time when attrition in the company is rising by about 13%. But Santosh, let's move on to another Tata Group company, and this one is Tata Elexi, which has reported a challenging Q3 as profit declined 13.3% and revenue fell 1.4%. Operating profit dropped 7.8% with margins narrowing to 24.5%. What do you make of Tata Elexi, another Tata Group company, this morning?
Yes, Harris picture is completely different because the valuations were not comfortable and results are far below estimates. So I think it is likely to continue its downward journey, and we can expect more downfall in near term. On immediate basis, there is some support area around 5700 where we can expect some kind of relief, but below 5700 we may see further slide towards even 4500 kind of level. It has to cross the level of 6400 for any meaningful recovery. But yes, structure is weak, and we may see this downtrend to continue for further downside.
All right, and this morning the stock is down almost 484 rupees, down about 7.5%. Do you think it is heading into lower circuit territory?
There is a possibility that we can expect a 10% down circuit in this counter in today's trading session.
All right, and there's another Tata Group company which has been in the news, and this is Tata Motors. Tata Motors dropped nearly 3% after the Jaguar Land Rover announced a mixed Q3 sales update. JLR's wholesale volumes grew 3% year-on-year, while retail sales fell about 3%. Note that yesterday's fall came despite positive outlook from global brokerages like Nomura and Morgan Stanley. What do you make of Tata Motors in trade today?
Yes, it was one of the underperforming counter in last couple of months, and I think there are some sign of bottoming out in Tata Motors around 720 kind of level. So despite weak JLR sales number, it fall yesterday, but from level of 770, it is showing some kind of bounce back. So I think until and unless it doesn't slip below 750 level, there's a chance that it may see some kind of resilience, and once it will close 820 level, we can expect a move towards 860, 870 kind of level. So there is some possibility that it has made a bottom around 720 kind of level, but it need a market support to move higher.
All right, it needs some support to move higher. In other corporate news, Adani Commodities LLP, one of the promoter entities, plans to sell up to 20% equity in Adani Wilmar through an offer for sale. In news coming this morning, the offer for sale has been priced now at 275 rupees per share. Santosh, what do you make of Adani this morning, Adani Wilmar?
I would suggest better to avoid this counter because there is no sign of strength in this counter. But yes, around 280, it is a strong support level. So there's possibility that it won't break the level of 280, and we may expect some kind of bounce back. But better to avoid. It is overall in a sideways zone, and if it fails to hold 280 kind of level, then we may see more pain on the downside.
All right, so avoid Adani Wilmar is the word coming in from Santosh Meena. Let's move to some new age companies which were listed recently. Let's begin with Swiggy. Well, the news is that Swiggy's quick commerce platform, Swiggy Instamart, has made major strides, now expanding to over 75 cities across India, and in a move aimed at improving user experience, Instamart will soon be available as a standalone app, although it will still be accessible on the existing Swiggy unified platform, where it has experienced massive growth over the past year. This step follows the launch of Snack, which is another separate app for quick food delivery, as the company adopts a multi-app strategy following the path of competitors like Zomato as well as Zepto. Swiggy, a newly listed company, Santosh Meena, what do you make of it and the news items surrounding Swiggy?
Yes, there was a brokerage upgrade in yesterday's trading session as well, and today we have also seen a brokerage upgrade from ICICI Securities. So yes, the counter is strong. The recent correction is a good buying opportunity, because I also believe around 480, 490 level we may see some buying interest in this counter. So you can accumulate at current level. I believe it should not fall below 460 kind of level. On the upside, once it will manage to sustain above 520 level, we can expect a rally towards 560, 570 kind of levels.
560, 570 levels if the rally sustains. Okay, and in other news surrounding quick commerce players and quick food delivery apps, and this is pertaining both to Swiggy and Zomato, the National Restaurant Association of India, or NRAI, has strongly criticized food delivery platforms Swiggy and Zomato for entering the quick commerce space with their own private label food apps, Snack by Swiggy and Bistro by Blinkit. The NRAI alleges unfair competition, abuse of market dominance and misuse of restaurant data, creating tension within the food services ecosystem. Now, of course, we have spoken about Swiggy, but Zomato has performed exceptionally well last year, and the stock has seen a fall of, rather a rise of about 12% in last year, and a 12% fall in the year 2025. What do you make of Zomato in today's trade?
Yes, Zomato is showing signs of weakness, but it is trading near its important support level of 200-day moving average. So it should hold this level of 235, which is its 200-day moving average. If it fails to hold this level of 235, then there will be more pain. But I believe it should hold this level, and we can expect a bounce back from this level. And if it shows any kind of bounce back, we can expect a rally toward 265, 270 in the near term.
All right, and the stock is continuing to slide. It is down about 13.6% year to date, which is this calendar year 2025. And even in trade this morning, the stock is down about 1.8% or so. Santosh Meena, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for taking time out and joining us right here on Morning Brief at 9. And moving on now, the global stories which are in news that you should know this Friday morning. $50 billion and counting. That's the economic damage inflicted by the Los Angeles wildfire till now, according to US private forecaster AccuWeather. US President-elect Donald Trump meets Republican Senate leaders in the US Capitol, but no clear agenda emerges as he gets set to take oath on January 20th. Meanwhile, tech billionaire Elon Musk hosts leaders of Germany's far-right AfD on X ahead of elections in Germany next month, urges voters to back the party. And just days after settling a $95 million lawsuit, tech giant Apple denies selling data from Siri to advertisers, raising questions on data privacy. British markets face a major hit from the global bond sell-off. The sterling struggles and domestic stocks underperform. Staying with the UK, after the Christmas cheer, shares in British retailers slump against the backdrop of low investor confidence and turmoil in bond and currency markets. Meanwhile, China's inflation hits a 9-month low in December. The IMF predicts a 4.5% growth this year. Cheer coming in from Japanese fast retailing operator Uniqlo, which posted profits in its first quarter. Duty-free shopping lifts domestic sales while North America and Europe boost results. Korean car maker Hyundai plans a record $16.7 billion investment in South Korea in a bid to secure future growth. The big story which has been developing over the days coming from the US, $50 billion and counting. That's right. That's the economic damage inflicted by the Los Angeles wildfire till now, according to US private forecaster AccuWeather. This is one of the United States' costliest disasters till date. Almost 2 lakh people have been ordered to evacuate, while hundreds of buildings have been destroyed, including many Hollywood celebrity homes. Take a look at this report.
The economic loss from the Los Angeles wildfires, already among the worst in history, has topped $50 billion. That's according to forecaster AccuWeather. The service added that the total estimate, now as high as $57 billion, would be revised upward if more densely populated neighborhoods were affected. By comparison, AccuWeather estimated the damage from the 2023 Maui wildfires at $13 to $16 billion. The LA wildfires, which have raged since Tuesday, have killed several people, destroyed hundreds of buildings, and stretched firefighting resources and water supplies. JP Morgan believes insured losses could stand at around $10 billion, mostly related to homeowners coverage. Property consultant CoreLogic estimates that there are over 456,000 homes with nearly $300 billion in reconstruction value in the city's at-risk areas.
Well, the clock is ticking for US President-elect Donald Trump to take oath on Jan 20th and become the 47th President of the United States of America. In his first visit to the US Capitol in over 4 years, Trump met Senate Republicans, but there seems to be no clear path for his policies yet, whether it's tax cuts, fuel production, or crackdown on immigration. Take a look.
President-elect Donald Trump paid his first visit to the U.S. Capitol in over 4 years on Wednesday.
Thank you very much. We had a great meeting. There's great unity.
Speaking after a closed-door meeting with Senate Republicans, Trump struck a confident tune, despite having secured no clear path to enact his plan to cut taxes, boost fossil fuel production, and deport millions of undocumented immigrants. With only narrow majorities in the Senate and House of Representatives, Republicans in the two chambers have clashed over whether to enact Trump's agenda in one piece of legislation or two.
We'll get something done. 1 bill, 2 bills, doesn't matter to me. They're going to work that out, but the end result is going to be the same.
Senate Republicans want to break Trump's agenda into 2 bills. That would potentially allow them to notch a quick win on border and energy policy before turning to the thornier matter of taxes. Meanwhile, House Republicans warn that their narrow margin of control runs the risk of failing to pass a second bill to extend Trump's 2017 tax cuts, which expire at the end of the year. Senate Majority Leader John Thune told reporters that the Senate stands ready to begin moving forward with its own legislation, but wants to give House Republicans time to shore up their sometimes divided ranks. On Friday, Trump is due to begin 3 days of meetings with House Republicans at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump's aide and tech billionaire Elon Musk hosts leaders of Germany's far-right AfD, Alice Weidel, on X ahead of elections in Germany next month and urges voters to back the party. This is a clear indication of the US billionaire's growing ambition to sway politics in Europe. There's more in this report.
And people really need to get behind the AfD, and otherwise things are going to get very, very much worse in Germany.
Elon Musk urged Germans to vote for the far-right Alternative for Germany Party, or AfD, in an upcoming election. In a conversation with its leader, Alice Weidel, on his social media platform X, that highlighted the U.S. billionaire's growing ambition to sway European politics.
I think Alice Weidel's a very, very reasonable person, and hopefully people can tell just from this conversation, nothing outrageous is being proposed.
Musk was doubling down on his endorsement last month of the anti-immigration, anti-Islamic party, labeled as right-wing extremist by German security services. which has caused consternation in Berlin and accusations of undue influence. The AfD has almost no chance of forming a government, despite polling in second place, as other parties refuse to work with it. Still, critics worry that Musk's support for the AfD could further bolster its popularity. His increasingly vocal support for far-right and anti-establishment parties across Europe comes after he used X and his vast wealth to help Republican candidate Donald Trump win the November 5th presidential election in the U.S. Asked by Musk to dispel any concerns that her party might be similar to Hitler's Nazis, Vital said the genocidal dictator was a communist, whereas hers was a conservative libertarian party.
The biggest success after that terrible era in our history was to label Adolf Hitler as right and conservative. He was exactly the opposite. He wasn't a conservative. He wasn't a libertarian. He was a communist, socialist guy.
Almost all historians agree that Hitler, an eliminationist nationalist, was of the far right. Musk has defended his right to weigh in on German politics because of his significant investments, namely Tesla's first European plant, and has praised the AfD's approach to regulation, taxes, and market deregulation.
Staying with stories from the US, just days after a $95 million settlement, tech giant Apple has categorically denied selling any data from its voice assistant app Siri to advertisers. Apple has issued a statement in which they have said they are committed to protecting user data. Here's a report.
Apple says it never sold data collected by its Siri voice assistant or used it to create marketing profiles. The Wednesday statement comes days after the tech giant settled a class action lawsuit over Siri. Plaintiffs said Apple had routinely recorded their private conversations and disclosed them to third parties, including advertisers. They said the recordings happened after they inadvertently activated the voice assistant after saying something similar to its Hey Siri alert phrase.
Hey Siri, what's my update?
Apple paid $95 million to settle the case. Many social media users took that as an admission of guilt, but the company has consistently denied the allegations. In its new statement, the iPhone maker said it had never sold Siri data to anyone for any purpose. It said it never retained audio recordings, unless users explicitly opted to allow that.
I respect your privacy and only listen when you're talking to me.
Even then, Apple says the recordings were only used to help improve Siri. A similar lawsuit on behalf of users of Google's voice assistant is pending in California. The plaintiffs there are represented by the same lawyers as in the Apple case.
Moving on, British markets are among the biggest victims of a global bond sell-off that has spilled over into currencies and stocks this week. Yields on long-dated British government bonds are at their highest in decades. That's put government finances under pressure, while sterling is struggling and British domestic stocks are underperforming. Here's more in this report.
British markets are among the biggest victims of a global bond sell-off that spilled over into currencies and stocks this week. Yields on long-dated British government bonds are at their highest in decades. That's put government finances under pressure, while sterling is struggling and British domestic stocks are underperforming. Britain's Treasury says it will maintain an iron grip on the public finances and that UK bond markets continue to function in an orderly way. But benchmark 10-year government bond yields surged more than 30 basis points in 3 days to hit 4.925% on Thursday. That's their highest since 2008. Fiona Cincotta is senior market analyst at City Index.
What we're seeing here is the impact of jitters over inflation, persistent inflation, and the fiscal outlook, which is unnerving investors. Not only are we sort of concerned here about the impact of inflation, which seems to be a bit stickier than expected, and the concerns of the inflationary outlook after the Labour budget at the end of October, but it also looks as if the Bank of England may not be able to cut interest rates as quickly as was initially expected.
The pound tumbled to a 14-month low against the dollar on Thursday, on fears surging borrowing costs will force government spending cuts. it's also lost ground against the euro. Traders are bracing for a wild ride in sterling, and some analysts say the currency may replace the euro as traders' currency of choice to sell short against the dollar. The bond sell-off has spilled over into stocks too. Britain's FTSE 250 index, which includes consumer, real estate and financial firms, is down over 3% this week so far. Market sell-offs can pose a challenge for governments, but the bond aspect is increasing the pressure on Britain's Finance Minister Rachel Reeves and could force her to cut future spending.
Staying with the investment mood in the UK after a short-lived Christmas cheer, retailers in the UK are getting jittery. Shares in Britain's Marks & Spencer and other retailers fell almost $2.4 billion, and this is the amount that was wiped off from the sector. What's causing this worry? Here's a report.
Shares in Britain's Marks & Spencer and other retailers fell on Thursday, and $2.45 billion was wiped off the sector. Investors are concerned as falling consumer confidence and economic weakness overshadowed healthy Christmas trading. Retailers are bracing for higher costs from April when employer taxes and the minimum wage are set to rise. The economic outlook has also been clouded by a leap in Britain's government borrowing costs in recent days. It adds to pressure on government finances and has prompted analyst warnings that further tax rises could be needed. Retailers think a tough year is ahead, with inflation also forecast to tick up. Marks & Spencer CEO Stuart Matchin said customer confidence is cautious. He also announced the group had delivered the highest food sales over the lucrative Christmas period on the UK high street. M&S reported above expectations growth of 8.9% in food sales, but the retailer's shares fell over 7% on Thursday. The country's biggest supermarket group, Tesco, posted a 4.1% rise in sales, while its shares also traded down. Tesco boss Ken Murphy was measured about the year ahead. He said consumers who really celebrated over Christmas would be more value-focused in January, but he added that was always the case at the beginning of the year.
On to news on the Chinese economy now. China's inflation has hit a 9-month low in the month of December, narrowly avoiding deflation. The consumer price index eased to 0.1%, indicating muted inflation despite economic measures. The whole of 2024 saw flat prices. Slowdown in spending coupled with ongoing challenges in the property market and local government financing has cast some doubt on the feasibility of Beijing's growth target. And staying with Asia, the Japanese operator of the global Uniqlo clothing chain said on Thursday that first quarter operating profit rose 7.4%, a solid start to its plan to achieve record profits for a fourth straight year. Here's more.
Fast retailing saw profits rise during the first quarter, but had mixed results in Asia. The operator of Uniqlo clothing chain said profit went up 7.4% on the year to just under $997 billion in the 3 months through November, but that was slightly below analyst forecasts. The Japanese firm performed strongly in its home market but was hit by a sharp decline in China. Fast retailing is seen as a bellwether for consumer spending in Japan and more recently China. Domestic sales have gained a boost from a surge in duty-free shopping as Japan enjoys a tourism boom fueled by a weak yen. But sales growth has cooled in China and led the company to scale back store openings. The firm said Japanese sales were boosted by cold weather in December that raised demand for thermals. It said unseasonably warm temperatures resulted in flat sales in China during October and November. Results were also strong in North America and Europe. Fast retailing is pursuing an aggressive expansion strategy in both markets as it aims to become the world's #1 clothing brand. Looking ahead, the firm kept its full-year operating profit forecast of $3.35 billion. That would put it on course for a fourth year of record earnings.
South Korea's automotive giant Hyundai Motor Group announced its plan to increase domestic investment by 19%, reaching a record high of $16.65 billion this year. The decision comes amid the economic and political uncertainties both in the nation and globally, strengthening the company's commitment securing future growth. Take a look.
Hyundai Motor Group says it plans to invest a record $16.7 billion in its South Korean operations. That would be up almost a fifth on the year. Thursday's move is a bid to secure future growth even as the firm grapples with economic uncertainty and political turmoil in its home country. The group, which includes Kia as well as the namesake Hyundai brand, is the world's number 3 automaker behind Toyota and Volkswagen. Around half of its new investment will go on developing next-generation products, including electric and hydrogen-fueled vehicles. The other half will go on regular investments for things like adjusting production lines to make EVs. In a statement, the group said it was all necessary to overcome the current crisis, without specifying what crisis it meant. Last week, the company referred to recession and global conflict as key external risks. South Korean consumer confidence has plummeted following the declaration of martial law and then impeachment of President Yoon Suk-yeol. Meanwhile, US President-elect Donald Trump has vowed to impose 10% tariffs on all imported goods. Kia shares were up close to 4% by early afternoon following the news, with Hyundai up around 1%. Both gains far outpaced Seoul's benchmark Kospi index. Earlier this month, Hyundai and Kia said they plan to grow their combined global sales to almost 7.4 million units this year, following a dip in 2024.
Well, that's all we have time for on Morning Brief at 9. Thank you so much for watching, but news continues. Up next at 10 o'clock, Yash Goyal brings you all the latest news and updates. You're watching News 9 Live.
A new wildfire broke out in scrubland in Los Angeles.
Firestorm is the big one in magnitude.
Deadly stampede broke out among a crowd of over 4,000 pilgrims.
Who is the B team of the BJP?
दिल्ली का चुनाव आम आदमी पार्टी और बीजेपी के बीच में है.
The Aam Aadmi Party is getting all the support from the INDI.